A few weeks ago, I called it BNB was about to move, and since then, it's up 136%. While everyone was busy chasing meme coins and AI narratives getting liquidated, BNB quietly became one of the strongest performers in the market. I've said it before, real money doesn't chase hype. It follows infrastructure, liquidity, and influence. And Binance still controls all three, for sure. I've been in this game for years, from Germany's strict regulations to living in Dubai where crypto actually moves faster than governments. I've seen coins pump and hype and die in silence. But BNB is different. It's not a trend, it's a machine that brings liquidity for the entire ecosystem. So the real question is how far this can go and what this tells us about the next phase of the market. So the very first thing is we need to understand, why did everyone ignore BNB while quietly it became the strongest layer 1 over the last couple of weeks and best performer of Q4. And the big reason for that is that you need to understand that in this crisis that we are in with world wars, markets not performing as everyone wants them to perform, the bull run kind of missing and not being the same anymore, there is crisis. And when there's crisis, people tend to invest into things where they have confidence in, and it kind of like rebounds confidence and a bailout narrative in that sense, right? People are going to move their money into safe havens. They saw that they get wrecked all the time in meme coins, AI, and all the trends, uranium, and whatever, all of these bubbles, right? And the crazy thing is that Binance and BNB obviously offers exactly that. If you're looking into a coin that makes sense to go up, then it's BNB because of the safetyness that BNB and Binance at the end of the day gives. It's a strong on-chain ecosystem. It has a lot of liquidity. And over the past weeks, we saw DEX volumes go up. There was a lot of transactions on BNB chain. There was a lot of new token launches, like meme coin projects were launching on the BNB chain and not on the usual Ethereum chain or other chains. And there's obviously real use for BNB. And that's what I mean by not chasing hype, but real and strong fundamental projects that have a real use case, such as XRP, XLM, and Ondo, and many of them that I call. And BNB is one of them that just performed out perfectly. On Binance, if you hold BNB, you get cheaper prices for trading. It's included in every product of Binance, you need BNB. So it means there's a high demand in general, like, and there's less speculation and more structure. On top of that, BNB has always had a very big plan on supply tightening, right? The tokenomics behind BNB demands that there's periodic burns. That means they're going to reduce the circulation, or basically the supply of BNB. So it means if we have less supply and high demand, price obviously goes up, right? That's the fundamental of the market. And because BNB is deeply integrated with Binance, again, you have fee discounts, you have usage, there's a lot of demand overall, and that's what we want to see in a stable project. Then obviously we had a lot of narrative push and fundamental momentum. We broke major levels like $1,000 and higher. Then people started to FOMO in and retail started to come in. There was a big public statement made by CZ, right, by the Binance leadership, to help amplify the confidence in Binance again with public statements of doxes and their holdings. And at the end of the day, capital just rotated out of Bitcoin gains, right, because we are in a C target, we are in a sell zone for Bitcoin, and it went into BNB because people are always cycling out money from things that pumped before into things that are going to pump into the future, right? And that's obviously BNB. Now, at the end of the day, the big gain in BNB is just amazing, and I'm going to show you right here my chart setup when I entered. So basically I entered over here, which is basically here in a correction level, perfectly entered over here. And from here to the top where I started to sell, we have made 136%. You see a very strong fundament, a very strong technical fundament in BNB, how good price is building up, right? There's a lot of internal bullish sequences, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different bullish sequences, right, that have their C targets, their targeting levels somewhere alongside going up, which is very positive to see. Like, for example, here we have a C target, here we have a C target, here we have a C target. These are all bullish buildups, right, and strong bullish momentum. And that overall led with a very strong stability phase over here, which is this phase over here, okay? It's called stability phase because price is just moving sideways. And with a lot of stability, there comes overreaction and overcorrection positively if you are buying, obviously. And that's what we saw here in BNB. Is BNB growth proof that centralization wins in short term and long term? And I guess yes. Whenever there's crisis, just following logic and human logic is they want to go into something that is more stable, and therefore it's centralized and there's a lot of liquidity, because centralized products just have more liquidity than decentralized products. Centralized products like Binance, right, buying BNB, will just feel more liquidity and have more liquidity than decentralized projects right now. Because when there is fear on the streets, people tend to go to their homes, right? They don't tend to stay on the street. And that's the same thing that happened now. People tend to go to the homes. BNB is a home, XRP is a home, Ethereum is a home, BTC is a home, whether all of these other new coins, altcoins, shitcoins, meme coins, all of these things, AI bubbles, right, are just too risky, and money cycled out of that. With Binance under global pressure, is this pump organic or strategic? I truly believe it's both. I think the pump that we saw is on the one side a fundamental logical chain of reaction of human behavior, which is the market is. The price shows human behavior and perfectly shows how people are going into safe havens like BNB. Same time, I think it's also strategic with the burns that Binance is doing, with the doxing that Binance recently did. CZ made sure that his reputation and stance with Binance is very strong again after some difficulties over the last couple of years, him resigning as a CEO and so on. How is BNB maintaining dominance while Solana, Avalanche, and Ethereum fight for market share? Right now, I think Solana was in hype very much the last couple of years, especially with the meme coin hype and a lot of transaction on the Solana chain. But it saw it pump, it saw high prices, and therefore people try to go somewhere else, because if something already pumped, they want to go into something new. And BNB just offered that security, offered a very good price, and was very, very low overall compared to other assets. It was still very undervalued. And every time there's bigger corrections, right, we want to get into coins that are still undervalued, that haven't pumped yet. If you compared BNB 2 or 3 months ago to all the other assets, everything was going up. XRP, new all-time high, XLM, new all-time high, BTC crushing all-time highs. But BNB was still being very, very slow and still very low, didn't even make a new all-time high, right? So you want to look for these undervalued assets, and that's why actually I got in on the fundamental basis of seeing BNB still being very undervalued, and then technically giving us what I just talked about, a very strong fundament with a lot of bullish strength and a clear target where it's going to go. And that's why we traded it. What happens if Binance launches a new ecosystem narrative like AI, real world assets on chain? If that happens, it's just going to push BNB even higher, because there's going to be more utility, more liquidity, more transactions, and more usage on the Binance ecosystem. So if they make a smart move now to continue the pump, and at the end of the day, now after this liquidation event we just saw, which by the way was the biggest liquidation event in history, we saw how quick BNB got bought up. But for it to continue to make new highs, we need to cycle into AI and real world assets on chain on BNB to continue to go higher. Because if not, people are just going to take their money out and find other undervalued assets, like for example Ondo, XLM, and so on. Could BNB become the next institutional altcoin, replacing Ethereum as a safe, scalable choice? I truly believe that there's a potential of that, but you also need to understand that BNB has a lot of enemies, like Solana, enemies in the sense of who's going to take more market share. You have Solana, you have Sui, you still have Ethereum, and then you have BNB. But so far you see BNB doing very, very well because of its centralized background and its fair usage every day, and also its name and how safe it is and how much attention it got right now. And most importantly, after 136% up, are we just getting started, or is this the exit liquidity phase? I mean, I took profits because this is enough profit for me, 136%. I'm not going to gamble. But if there's re-entries and the hype continues, I will look for re-entries. But for now, this ride is over for me, and I'm happy with my profits, because I don't want to end up like most people out there, riding it all up and losing it all back down again. Look, everyone talks about freedom in crypto, but most people forgot where the real power lies. The exchange, the liquidity, and the ecosystem that control both. And that's BNB for sure. BNB is not just a token, it's an economy. It represents the power of narrative control, user flow, and brand dominance, which is Binance. And if you understand how that works, you'll stop chasing hype and trade the real assets. So here's my take. BNB is not done yet. It's just the first signal, because when the infrastructure coins start moving, that's when the real altcoin season begins. So I truly believe this is gonna spark a altcoin season, but focused on projects that are called safe havens and have good fundamental strong use cases. And if you want to catch more of these plays before they explode, hit subscribe, because we don't just react to the market, we read it before it moves.